Hi everyone, and welcome to today's session on creating customer centricity and loyalty through a single customer view. So my name's Matt, I'm one of the consultants at Blueven, and I'm going to be taking today's session where we're going to be spending a little bit of time talking about defining different metrics for customer loyalty. We're also going to be looking at some additional tactics that you might not be doing to help increase lifetime value. And we're also going to be taking a look at some great examples of brands that have customer retention down to an absolute T. And finally, we're also going to be looking at how a single customer view, or SCV, can help to be the foundation for creating that customer-centric approach. So the session is going to last about 30 minutes or so, and do feel free to fire across any questions as we actually get them as well. So I think the most sensible place to start for today's session is actually starting with the idea of loyalty. So really, when we think about it, it goes without saying that loyalty means different things to different people. Just think about your internal teams for a moment. Broadly speaking, for a salesperson or a CFO, loyalty translates to a financial number. For marketing teams, loyalty translates into content consumption and engagement metrics. And for customer success and account management teams, loyalty translates into advocacy and referral metrics. But what does loyalty really mean to the actual customer themselves? Does it mean access to discounts or experiences? Or does it mean the ability to gain earlier access to promotions or some other form of special or exclusive treatment? The fact that loyalty really translates into different metrics for different individuals within a business, and the same when we actually talk about loyalty in relation to customers, this really highlights the inextricable link between how loyalty is defined, but also how loyalty is actually measured as well. And I've worked with a number of organizations who recognize that loyalty's flexible definition allows them to have various flavors or manifestations of loyalty within their customer base. So if we take a step onwards then and take a look at a fashion example and focus, let's say, on footwear. Now, some buyers will buy one pair of trainers or sneakers from a brand and replace them once every sort of 6 months or so as they wear out. Others may buy multiple pairs of the same style, but in different colors, but they may only shop once a year when a particular collection drops, for example. Another group may spread their purchases across lots of different styles and colorways, depending upon the season, those colors as well, and also the price point at the different retailer. You might even have some buyers who are extremely savvy and only actually choose to shop in the sale with your brand. But you might also have some that choose to shop at the beginning of the season so they've got the latest products. And finally, you may have some buyers who will only ever buy the absolute top of the line, pinnacle edition products, but particularly when they're limited edition releases or collaborations with influencers or sports stars, for example. So what we can see here is that some customers are loyal due to repeat purchase behavior on some type of schedule that makes sense to them, be that a time of year, a specific season, or a particular sale, for example. Other buyers are quite obviously collectors who demonstrate their loyalty through a combination of buying higher priced exclusive products and buying from each of these new and exclusive ranges every time they're released. We can extrapolate this example out to cover almost any vertical or any industry as well. Think about car collectors versus car enthusiasts who mainly have one car from that particular brand, or sports fans who always buy the latest jersey or cap versus sports fans who kind of shun the merchandise. They're not interested in that, but they always go to every game and they're always purchasing a season ticket. But it's not just how loyalty itself is manifesting in the simple terms that we've described here. We also need to understand the links between all of the different behaviors around loyalty as well. The question of, is the person who owns 5 cars from one particular brand and is quite obviously a collector, are they more or less loyal than the one person that's bought one model? They drive it every day and they'll advocate the brand and the model and the brand experience at every given opportunity. Take that idea to the sports fan. Are they more or less loyal because they only buy game tickets and food within the stadium, but they choose to shun the merchandise for whatever reason? So as you can see, loyalty is about more than just a single financial value or a single measure. It's about understanding how avid users and followers of your product or services are engaging with your brand and your products, and how their loyalty is manifesting through the different behaviors and preferences that they exhibit. Saying that, a lot of organizations as well have moved beyond that sort of simple financial metrification of loyalty, and are at various stages of maturity, focusing on understanding how different customers are acting at ground level. Are they word of mouth advocates? Are they micro influencers? Are they sort of taking other steps to really help share the story of your brand, humanizing your product offering, and really helping you infiltrate those seemingly disparate social subgroups that don't have those obvious connections that we might expect to see if we were analyzing data? So when we think about measuring loyalty, we first need to think about a couple of different things. We need to think about and acknowledge the different flavors of loyalty, and which of those sort of different flavors are manifesting within our customer base. Only once we've done this, and we're only able to do this when we have all of our data in one place, which we'll come to a little bit later, are we actually able to start looking at the specific measures like the ones you see on screen as a way to be able to benchmark that loyalty. The other thing we need to consider here is if we need to focus on explicit signs and signifiers that a customer is demonstrating, or do we need to look at things that are slightly more subtle and not quite so easy to metricize from a data perspective, such as word of mouth referrals? So I think if we take this idea and we actually look at the definition of loyalty then, and I think it's fair to say that loyalty as a whole, while there is a basic definition, again, as you can see on screen here, it really is a concept that can be applied to any business. It's all about supporting and believing in that business and its mission and the products it produces. But the thing to point out here is that supporting and believing in something is always going to manifest in a different way depending upon the individual brand, the products that you're talking about, and the customer or group of customers who are actually buying that product as well. But what's more important, though, isn't just the basic definition of loyalty that we use. As many people who use something either the same or very similar to what we have on the slide today. But it's actually how we measure that loyalty and actually how it links to the business metric of retention. So thinking about retention then, we can see that like the concept of loyalty we discussed earlier, retention will mean different things to different people. But no matter what meaning that has to you or the rest of your team or the rest of the department within your organization, retention can always be defined through a mathematical formula or calculation. And because retention can be defined in this numerical way, it's something that's easily measurable for any vertical or for any business model. So I'm sure many of you are going to use something similar to the calculation that we have on screen here. So in this example here, if a business starts with 100 customers at the start of a period, they add in 10 customers overall. But then what we're seeing here is they actually end the period with 100. It means 100 customers. They've actually only got a 90% retention rate in actuality. And this is great if we want to boil down retention and loyalty to just a simple number. But the big thing here is it's about linking retention and loyalty to the more intangible beliefs and value-driven elements of why. Why does a customer demonstrate loyalty to you and to your brand? So in summary, like I said, retention is a great way of translating loyalty into a universally recognized business metric. But take that a step further, we can start to explore the link of the idea of loyalty and how retention has actually evolved over time. So when we think about this in a business context, so I as the customer will give you money if you give me something in return. Go back hundreds of thousands of years ago, this would have just been the goods or services that I paid for at an agreed level of quality. But as with everything in the modern world, the customer's demands and expectations have altered this value exchange to include things that range beyond the transactional and are really driving into the experiential side of engagement as a whole. Now, I know there are lots of different examples of this out there, but I've actually just sort of picked one to pop up on screen here. And this is a really great example of basic personalization that helps brands build loyalty and engagement using a very small amount of data. So this is an example from a dog food delivery service in the UK that I know myself and a number of my colleagues also use as well. And what we see here is an example of the email creative and for the particular campaign that they launched over the Christmas period. that meant that their customers would either receive a free turkey Christmas meal for their pet, or that pet food would be donated to a particular dog charity. Now, speaking on a personal level, it's a really great idea because all they needed to do from a data perspective was look at the purchase history for the individual customer, see how often they've actually ordered that turkey meal that is typically offered throughout the year. And if they saw that there was a very low level of uptake of that turkey meal, like if it had never been ordered or only ordered once or twice, then they would make an assumption that the pet wasn't particularly fussed about the particular turkey flavour and would therefore opt to donate that food on the pet's behalf instead. All they then needed to do was just grab the recipient's name and the pet's name and a couple of other little bit of factual pieces of information. Great, they've got an email creative ready to go out the door. So this is, again, a really great, simple example of how you can enhance the customer experience and the emotional connection with a brand without actually requiring access to many different data sources as well. So thinking back to that example there, the whole idea of the value exchange is that it's taking place between the customer and the business, and that it's really designed to inspire loyalty. And as we saw from that email creative, there are lots of different facets and interactions that contribute to that feeling of loyalty. So if we take that example we've just been looking at, the idea of playing to the altruistic side of any pet owner's personality when donating food to an animal in need combines really nicely with the brand's image and helping to enable the person that's purchasing to actually really validate their choice of that brand, because not only are they providing a product that's benefiting you and your pet, they're also helping the wider animal loving community. So connecting both on a financial, sort of transactional level, but also on a more emotional level as well. But if we look at this idea from a more holistic standpoint and step outside the example, we can see that businesses are looking to use data from across all of the different operational systems and communications channels to be able to benchmark and report upon factual information, such as the value, the frequency, and the recency of purchases made by a customer, as well as their levels of engagement with the different digital properties of that brand, how they've interacted with the different customer services teams, details around returns and warranty claims, as well as things like the telltale inferences from review platforms or public forums such as a user community. So as we can see, businesses are under a lot of pressure to be able to track and measure all of these ever-changing disparate attributes in order to get a clear picture of the loyalty of their customer base. Now, because of this, and this is a real need here to make everything measurable and comparable within business. And this is where we to do a number of different things to be able to understand their customers across all the channels and all the disparate systems that they have in place. That could be through lots of different data projects, for example, or it could be through something as simple as the deployment of a loyalty scheme, which could be something like the supermarket style, points-based systems where you swipe a card at the checkout. Could be bounce back coupons where you get 20% off if you shop within a particular time period, just to name a few examples. But if we consider these schemes at the more general level, what's really happening here is that customers' purchase behavior is being rewarded by the business in the form of a discount or a points balance. But what businesses are also getting from these schemes is a way to really track and attribute purchase behavior. And this in turn is giving them access to more detailed insight into the individual making the purchase, and in certain business models, into the actual household makeup and the associated preferences and habits of the individuals within that household. Now, while this is a great thing to have from a business perspective, the real challenge here is to use data to optimize the scheme, making the rewards attainable and beneficial, but focused on driving the desired behavior within a customer, which would typically be a purchase as well. But what I don't want to do is actually, sort of overlook some of the things that businesses do tend to forget when they start to think about incentivizing and rewarding loyalty. And there are lots of different ways to actually incentivize and reward loyalty at those different stages of the customer journey. We've got a couple of examples up on the screen here. And this is by no means exhaustive. You've got the obvious things of providing discounts, for example. Great if you've got new customers or you're trying to actually encourage people to complete their purchase as part of the whole sort of cart abandonment or browse abandonment process. You've got early access to new stock or private sales for those higher lifetime value customers, for example. Perhaps even using things like exclusive events, maybe free online tutorials that you can distribute through social media, or more one-to-one engagements for those high-value clients again. Yeah, there's also, like I say, there's the free content element as well. You can even go out to things like Instagram Live and Facebook, etc. as well. And there's all the different things around sort of free experiences, in the car world, running things like test drives, for example, allowing people to experience different running footwear through, free trials and gait analysis and all of those kinds of things as well. And then you get into things like loyalty points and providing the free samples for particular products, something that's really great in the beauty industry. And then actually holding competitions to win free products as well. Now, like I said, this isn't exhaustive, but all of these different ideas provide great experiences for your customers and great ways to engage with the brand. But the big thing here is we don't want to dilute a brand's reputation by offering unnecessary discounts. For example, if a customer was holding off purchasing because their size wasn't available, we should know that because of the purchase history and what we already have in terms of data. We should know this person buys a particular size. We don't want to be pushing them to complete if, like I say, we don't have that in stock. We don't want to waste the advertising cost to try and pull them back into the product and offer that discounted price. What we need to do is take note of the fact that they are out of stock and just send them a little nudge reminder, whether that's a push notification or an email, just to say, hey, we've got your size back in stock. Really sorry we were out, but is this something you're still interested in? So it's not only important then that the incentives have that sort of data-driven meaning, but we also need to look at when they're offered in the customer journey to make sure that they have the biggest impact. All these things are there to help keep the customers connected to a brand and really ensure their customer loyalty. But I know that, speaking from my own experience, and I think that's probably the same for everyone on the session today, that when brands utilize all of these different tactics and offers at different stages in the customer journey, particularly when they will actually resonate with me as a buyer at most, it feels like the brand, they're not only just investing in a connection with me as a customer, but they're doing it in a way that's actually designed to help me and connect with me rather than just saying, here's a new product, buy something. There's a lot more of that emotional connection involved as well. So speaking of the things that customers really value when they're engaging with and purchasing from a brand, not only are we looking at the tactics and the strategies we can use, there are other things that are in the wider world that are really playing into how brands are perceived. And this is the same across different industries and different verticals. And it's that idea of brand image and brand authenticity playing a massive part in this as well. We regularly see this when we look at the news. No matter where we are, we might see an errant comment by a CEO in a TV interview or an exchange between a customer and a customer services rep over email that suddenly becomes a massive viral sensation on social media, particularly when brands seem to be not necessarily practicing what they preach. And what I mean by that is they're not actually sticking true to the core values of the business as stated within their particular mission statement. And what we're seeing here is that two things. Firstly, as we all know, in the modern world of social media and the always-on internet age, there's absolutely nowhere to hide for a brand when they get something wrong. And secondly, that customers really place a heavy weight of value on the authenticity of a brand when it comes to actually sharing the ideals with their customer base, particularly when it's in line to their mission statements. Recently, this commitment to the whole idea of wider brand values has actually led to the development of a perceived brand authenticity scale that businesses can use to empower customers to rate their authenticity. In a similar line to things like Net Promoter Score or NPS or the different product reviews you get on different review platforms as well. But like I said, there's lots of evidence that this really matters to individual customers and that authenticity plays a really big part in their purchasing patterns. And a study released late in 2020 shows that 80% of customers place a very large level of significance on brand ethics and brand authenticity when it came to every element of the customer journey, from initial investigation and engagement with the website in this COVID world at the moment, through to actually whether they want to continue to make a purchase, or if they want to choose to repurchase again, or if they're engaging on social media. The list goes on and on and on. The other thing that we've also seen here is, this sort of commitment to brand image and brand authenticity has led to organizations adopting things such as the B Corp or B Corporation commitment as part of their mission statement, particularly when they're brands that are focused around sustainability and giving something back to the natural world, or preserving the natural world as well. And this is also where we see things like the use of shock tactic style marketing, as we can see on the screen here, that sort of famous or infamous, depending upon your viewpoint, do not buy this jacket ad from Patagonia, really being used to drive home the point around putting brand ethics, image, and sustainability before the bottom line of the business. But to be honest with you, none of this is new. We saw the rise of companies like Body Shop 20, 30 years ago, with the stance around animal testing and how they actually used a socially driven mission statement to really cement their place in the market. Like I say, it's nothing new. It's just becoming the new normal in the sort of the modern world and the modern marketplace across lots of different verticals. So as we've already discussed, loyalty, retention, brand image and authenticity, and customer experience, they're all really, really closely interlinked. But if these factors are so closely linked, how many businesses struggle to deliver in these areas? And how are they allowed to get away with that if it has such a massive impact in the bottom line of their business, their organization, their company? Is there a single cause? Is it purely cultural? Is technology at fault? What about the ever increasing demands of the customer? So while there's no disputing the fact that customer demands and customer expectations, business culture, they have a not insignificant impact, I believe that technology is one of the core things that underpins all of the issues that businesses experience around loyalty and wider customer engagement across the entire customer base. I say this as I regularly see businesses who work really, really hard to capture the data that customers are generating in order to meet specific business needs. Data in a CRM system to aid sales teams' understanding of their accounts and their contacts, for example. Purchase and fulfillment data are all being linked into an ERP system in order to facilitate things like accurate order processing, stock level tracking, and shipping. Email data being put into your email tool, your ESP, in order to really allow you to communicate with customers in a quick and easy way. These are just a few examples, but many businesses, in my experience, become so focused on solving a departmental issue or a core business problem that they miss the fact that customers interact in a way that pleases them. Customers interact on any channel, whenever it works for them, whatever's convenient. They don't take into account the convenience of doing things within a particular channel for the business. And it's this issue of being able to actually break down all of the data silos that end up existing within an organization. That could be, centralizing access to the simple things, the Excel spreadsheets and the email lists that you might have in an ESP for a smaller organization. But it starts to become more of a challenge when you get to bigger organizations as well, when you start to have 10 or 15 different business departments, for example, all of them with their own systems, all working in silo. How are you actually able to understand who the customer is that sits behind all of that data? And how are you able to trust what the data tells you if you're always having to work with it in a manual way? By not having the ability to trust this data, businesses are typically looking for the ability to see a true omni-source, an omni-channel view of every customer in one place. And to do so in a way, like I said, that doesn't require lots of manual work that can be open to mistakes. But the big thing here for an organization is once you're able to understand who the customer is, what they like to browse, how that browsing translates into purchases and returns, what articles they read on your website, what areas of the website they visit most frequently, what offers do they tend to sort of take a look at and actually follow through on, whether that's a discount, for example, or are there other experiences they value a lot more than just financial offers? It's then time to, once you're actually able to understand all of these things, to really utilize that trustworthy view of the data to start driving that enhanced experience demanded by your customers. Because as we've already covered, You can optimize the customer experience at all points. And then your measurable business metrics like retention, purchase value, lifetime value, average order value, they're all naturally going to increase over time. So I know we've talked a little bit about issues with disparate data sources. So at the end of last year, BlueVen actually spent some time and we surveyed over 200 brands and came out with some interesting statistics. We found that only 9% of respondents to the survey felt that they could actually deliver a seamless experience that spans online and offline. And this is surely something that's going to have a massive effect on customer loyalty, as that entire idea of customer centricity and an omni-channel experience just isn't there. The report also found that customer data platform equipped brands are 5 times more likely to be using things like advanced data analytics to support use cases such as real-time personalization of all of their different marketing channels, which would really help to connect all the dots across all of those siloed data sources and create that sort of optimal customer experience. But also those same companies are twice as likely to actually be delivering those synchronized online and offline customer journeys because they have the ability to do so. So I think my big takeaway from those numbers on a personal level is that, for businesses that can really trust their data and use data to drive future engagements based upon what they already know about the customer, they've got a key advantage. Those organizations are really able to combine their brand image and their brand authenticity and the different ethical alignments they might have to those of their customers, obviously all being demonstrated and based upon the data they have at their fingertips. But then they're able to actually make those connections in a far deeper way that allows them to take their engagement beyond just price and transactional things like discounts, for example. So we've got another great example here of the beauty brand Space NK. So they're actually, they have UK based and they have cosmetic. They have lots of different brands that they're actually retailing. They have stores in every major city, and they've got such a cult following. Yet it's fair to say their products are absolutely second to none. But what is also second to none is the actual customer experience they deliver. Now, a couple of years ago, they launched their Indulge scheme, which is their reward scheme where they assign points to customers for doing different things like buying products, leaving reviews, and referring friends to actually make purchases. So what really happened here is, which you can see on the left from this particular email example, is that a purchase, or several as you can probably imagine, have been made. This is all part of a series of emails encouraging the person who's made that purchase to leave a review for extra points. And now that that person's actually being reminded that their points are due to expire and that they can claim those points either online or in store, whether they want to be able to just do that directly through the checkout process on the website or scan the barcode that you can see here to actually redeem those points. So firstly, this is such a great way to build brand loyalty. Space NK, they're premium products, and because you've got those peer reviews, you're really confident that you're actually getting the best of the category because you can see the real reviews, and all of the different recommendations are based upon data about you and your preferences tied to those sort of crowdsourced reviews. Secondly, you'll see there's an increase in lifetime value because, quite frankly, if you're getting points and you're actually contributing to that user community for the purchases, it becomes more of a sort of a community feel rather than just a retail transactional engagement. And lastly, what you're also doing is you're upping your recency score, and this is being achieved through this email because, quite frankly, Space NK are making it so easy for you to claim your free products, to claim your points, for example, no matter how you choose to purchase. So this is all building on that basic personalization by bringing in extra information from in-store and online. It's taking into account things like returns information and the rewards that you have appended to your reward card. And they wouldn't be able to do this if they didn't have that 360-degree customer view, or that single customer view of each and every one of their customers. So for me, what the real story of Space NK illustrates is the idea of how an experience that combines all of the business's knowledge about the customer into one place allows for a truly customer-centric approach to communications and the delivery of experience. We also mentioned that sort of retail report survey as well. Within that report, I also picked out some other stats as well. The report flagged that over 60% of customers value that highly optimized and relevant cross-channel experience, especially if it's actually leveraging what the business already knows about the customer from a purchase and preference perspective. Again, all about moving beyond the purely financial and focusing on the delivery of a brand experience at every point within the customer lifecycle. So as our sort of penultimate slide, as I mentioned a little earlier, when we spoke about the challenges that businesses face when looking to understand the customer behind all of the interactions and data points that reside within all of the different business systems, the key part of the puzzle needed to really deliver upon all of the topics we've covered in today's session is that idea of a single, trustworthy view of each and every customer. By being able to truly know the customer, understanding what they value and how they prefer to interact, not only can you actually measure their loyalty and all of the associated behavioral signifiers, you can then look to use this insight to work to retain them as a customer and to do so in a way that really delivers an engaging customer experience at every turn. As we saw from the example of Space NK, it's this accurate single customer view that's enabling them to actually accomplish a whole range of things that spans just beyond the simple, retention of customers. And this is especially true when we start to think about defining different metrics where they're looking to understand loyalty, as they're able to understand the different ways in which loyalty is manifesting in their customer base. Getting into the specifics of those key signifiers, they can then track and benchmark and incentivize the right things for the right customer cohorts and make it really, really easy to pivot if there are changes in those cohorts and their behaviors. And finally, when we think about examples of brands with great retention strategies, it's always the ones who focus on customer centricity that seem to be far ahead of the pack. Whether that's through thoughtful incentivization of behaviors, the operation of a loyalty program that really delivers value to the customer, or just a brand who actually leverage their data to do the simple things really, really well. It's the focus on the customer and their experience underpinned by the accuracy of the data that you have within your organization that really makes those brands stand out. Now, we've had a number of questions come in today as we've been going through the session, and I know we're running a little bit long on time, so I'm actually just going to take one of these here that I think is particularly pertinent for the conversation, and I'm going to come back to the others through offline. So the question here is a single customer view or CDP just collecting the data like a data hub and then enabling different systems to drive loyalty, or are there other ways that a single customer view or customer data platform can help? So I think just to tackle this very briefly then, yes, customer data platforms are designed to connect to all of the different business systems in an organization and collect that data in one place and really structure it so that you can trust it. It's all cleansed, matched, merged, deduplicated, and put together in a way that allows you to have complete and utter total confidence in what the data is telling you. But not only that, customer data platforms also provide lots of different tools to allow you to apply your own empirical knowledge of your data to your data, whether that's through categorizations and things like bandings, for example, or even if you want to just jump off and conduct different pieces of analysis as well. But beyond that, there's also all of the automation capabilities as well, where you can use automation where it actually makes sense within the business process. You might want to drive efficiencies, automate repetitive tasks, and free yourself up to actually use your own empirical knowledge and your own data curiosity to really get into the specifics of your data and your customer base and start exploring different experiences that you can provide. But a lot of CDPs also actually provide predictive capabilities as well. And this kind of takes this idea a step further as well about how you can provide these kinds of experiences to customers to increase their loyalty. So where you can start to use things like AI and machine learning, things like next best action, for example, to really optimize the customer experience at scale, really helping to drive the iterative improvement of that customer experience. But a lot of solutions tend to have this as a sort of a black box. You kind of put the data in and it tells you what to do next, but you can't add your own sort of take on this. You can't inject your own empirical knowledge into the models. And that's one of the big things that BlueVan actually has. It's not the whole idea of machine learning is it's not black box, it's completely open. It's very easy for users to combine that empirical knowledge with all of these different algorithmic approaches to really meet the needs of the organization as well. Now, as I said, there are a couple of other questions that I want to cover, so I'll be coming back to these individuals offline. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining us for today's session. We'll be sending out a recording of this within the next 24 to 36 hours, and look forward to seeing you on the BlueVan Bright Talk channel soon. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.